Good evening, good afternoon rather. So, trying to get this rather long-winded Game Boy collection thing out of the way, over and done with. And I was a bit of a silly boy last night and slightly hungover today. So, good excuse to waste my time on this on this exercise. So, only a couple bits left. Actually, I forgot something. Only a couple of bits and bobs left to go over. Hopefully, this won't take so long. Actually, I already talked about this in another video. Breath of Fire. I should have put this aside, but here it is, so I'll talk about it again, maybe. Crappy label. It's all faded, it's a bit scuffed up. And to boot, don't know if you can see that. That's kind of, you can see that becoming my motto. I don't know if you can see that. You almost certainly can't. I should have a light on in here, really. I should have a proper camera. I should have a lot of things. I don't have any of them. But it's dirty. It's very dirty on the inside. I noticed this when trying to play it, and it's really minging. In fact, it's especially on the plastic inside. There's absolutely no hope of seeing. Oh no, there you go. Up here. Oh yeah, there we go. You can see it a bit in there as well. It's dirty, so I'm going to clean it. I was playing it and I must have taken it out just to look at the cartridge or something, and I saw how dirty it was, and I might have actually kept playing it at that point, but I don't really know don't know if it's true, but I was a bit worried that it would pass on to the chips on the inside of the Game Boy and so on and so forth. So I mean, I don't really know how much that sort of dirt. It's not mold, is it? It's just, I mean, it looks a bit fungusy. It looks like, I don't really know how it proliferates, but I just thought I'll clean that before using it, before putting it anywhere near the Game Boy. But then it's so, I don't know, I can see myself replacing this, but I'll clean it anyway. Maybe I'll do a how-to video on it. Something I tried to do before, but it was far too long and boring. The difficulty being, this works, the game works, so what would be nice would be able to show, a game that doesn't work, which I render functional by cleaning it, which I did with Pokemon Stadium 2, but I didn't show it not working in the first place. Oh well. And maybe I didn't show that video at all. I don't think I uploaded it. Next. Castlevania. Known to the rest of the world, I believe, as Castlevania Circle of the Moon. And I'm trying to think whether that is... Oh, windy. That is a title that even comes up on the title screen in-game. I don't think it is. It's very windy. Maybe I'll close that window. It's nice having fresh air though. I'm going to close that because that's distracting me. Nice, okay. So, I remember faintly playing this game for the first time. It was at a friend's house. I'll have to... I suppose what I'm building here for myself is, or for anyone else someday, is, it's a history, it's a catalogue, and it feels a little bit strange to be referring to so many different people as I now have been as my friend. There's many people I'm talking about when I say that. Don't know, using their actual names seems crude. It doesn't seem to fit in with the idea I have of this. I'll find a solution to that anyway. A friend of mine. One of my oldest friends, and one with whom I had probably the closest kind of gaming focused relationship with. He and I would go to this game shop in Edinburgh, which is still there. Probably the only independent game shop left in Edinburgh. A place called Games Masters Games Exchange on Leith Walk. One of these old-fashioned kind of one of now relatively few old Leith businesses kind of still hanging on. Won't get into that though. But I remember playing this. I think he had it. I played it at his house, and it was it really kind of I liked it at the time. I don't remember what my impression was of it, but I had a lasting memory of playing it that always had this air of mystery to it. You know, it was a game from a certain era, You know, Game Boy Advance, like fairly kind of on the threshold of, I don't want to say modern gaming, but it seems to come from a time when it was less common to get a game like this where you turn it on and the action pretty much starts straight away with relatively little preamble, and that's a feature of, I suppose, the earlier Castlevanias more so than certainly the later Castlevanias where they're quite story focused. I mean, they're not. It's not Final Fantasy or anything like that. But it was quite. I don't know. When I thought back to and remembered this game, having played the more RPG-ish Metroidvania type games, Dawn of Sorrow and Symphony of the Night, it seemed to have this kind of simplicity to it, which I found appealing. And I'd only played it for a short while, and I'd never played it again. This is years and years and years ago. So I was quite attracted by it when I saw it for sale. I wasn't even certain that it was the game I remembered it to be, because the title Circle of the Moon was what I remembered. So I don't know whether it was maybe an American cartridge or something that I originally played. Maybe it was even an emulator, although I don't expect it was. I mean, as well, you know, remembering that title, Circle of the Moon, which maybe I misremembered. Maybe I learned that title and inferred that it was this game, but that was never the title of the game at the time. If it was, in fact, a European copy of Castlevania. I hope that's clear what I've just described there. But I remember buying this a few months ago, and I was, I think, more keenly feeling the attraction of returning to a very specific but quite elusive experience that this game seemed to promise to me. I was really indulging in that fantasy of returning to this game as kind of this profound thing, this profound experience following this thread. And I remember I bought it and I got back on the train home, and I went for a wee drink and had a read, and I did a bit of writing. And I remember kind of, I wasn't writing about this game or anything like that, but I remember what I wrote. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, you know. I'm not getting nostalgic about that experience as such, but I just remember, and very consciously feeling very consciously reading into the experience of collecting this game, of returning to it, of playing it, a game I had very little experience with, reading a lot of meaning into that, with a healthy dose of criticality to that kind of letting your belief go a bit wild there. The game itself is fine. it's actually it's maybe disappointing. I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it, but it's a little bit not the best Metroidvania. But it's all the other stuff that goes with the games, all the imaginative paraphernalia. Only a couple other things left. My DS Lite. This is the one I had, back in the day. My consoles I've held on to. I've held on to my consoles to a large extent. I had the original DS when it came out, the big horrible grey thing, and I upgraded to this when the DS Lite came out. I think I got it with brain training or some rubbish. I'm holding this now, and I'm kind of remembering holding it for the first time. It was a really attractive piece of kit. It kind of still is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that kind of looks like this now. They were definitely chasing the kind of iPod, like kind of Apple aesthetic with this, and maybe this is a little bit passé now, or out of fashion, but playing it, holding it again, I mean, it's still in good condition. It's got the cracks. This was, I think, the first crack, and this one even developed. I'd always heard of it just happening on one side, but yeah, it's happened to both of mine. And now that I've gotten really used to kind of looking at these consoles and being like, oh, they've gone yellow. With the Dreamcast, the Super Nintendo, and the NES and stuff, although my NES is in pretty good condition, I can see now that it looks white, but it is a wee bit yellow, especially you can see on like these bits here. Maybe you can't because it's doing funny things to the light, but the shoulder buttons and stuff have gone a bit yellow. I wouldn't have, had I looked at this a few months ago, I wouldn't have thought that it was anything other than pure white, I suspect. I don't know, I didn't think I had much of a nostalgic relationship with this, but actually this kind of feels weird to pick up and play. It has I'm remembering playing it. I have kept precious few of my DS games from over the years. I think I have Pokemon games and Spirit Tracks, which is a bit shit. What's in here? I think I know what is in here actually. Yes. Oh, Castlevania. So this was kind of the first Castlevania game I played properly. Yeah, I loved it. Perfect mix of like RPG and action in terms of it being challenging and fun, but also the kind of collectory, grinding RPG stuff gives you that feeling of reward that is kind of disproportionate to the amount of effort you put in. So it's a really good game in that respect. I won't go on and on, but now here's a thing. I bought this on eBay, like unboxed, before I started collecting video games, and this is not the one I used to own. I just remembered this. I lost many of my DS games all at once. It was in high school. God, that was a long time ago. And we were on a school trip, I think in the French Alps or something. It was a geography thing. We never did a lot of that sort of thing, but that happened once. And I left it on the bus at the very end. The bus that was taking us back to the school. I think I left my like DS games pack thing there. It had Metroid Prime Hunters, Animal Crossing. Was it Wild World? Which I had just begun to spend a lot of time on. Castlevania, Dawn of Sorrow, and some Game Boy Advance games. Castlevania double pack, which I mentioned the other day. I lost that, which, you know, had I held on to that, it would be worth some money now. Mario Kart DS, like pretty much all my DS games actually. So that maybe explains why. Although I probably still had the boxes for them. Don't know what I did with them. Yeah. So what was I saying? Yeah, just looking at this. The label looks really grainy, like really bad, really badly printed, and it makes me think that this is a fake, which I would not have. I don't know. That is out of focus. The Nintendo DS thing looks fine, but this is really grainy. I don't know. Maybe it's just a poor print, but it makes me think that maybe it's. There's probably a way of finding this out in terms of serial numbers and things. Who knows? Very, very tacky Game Boy Advance SP. So, I had a Game Boy Advance, and it was our house was burgled actually. The door was left open down the stairs, and someone came up with a spiral staircase. Sounds like I live in a castle, which is not quite the case. Spiral staircase upstairs. We were on the first floor, which was our bottom floor. And yeah, they snuck up to the room and stole a bunch of stuff. And so the original Game Boy Advance I had was nicked, and this is what I got to replace it. And I probably wouldn't have chosen a. I mean, I can't remember choosing the tribal thing. It doesn't seem like something I would do. I think even at the time I thought this is a bit cheesy and tacky looking. But I do have, as a replacement console, probably pretty late on in my Game Boy Advance playing career. Actually, I'm not sure if that's true. Anyway, I do have memories of playing games on this console in particular. In fact, now I think about it, probably the only games I remember keenly playing on the original Game Boy Advance, which I think was black, that I had. The only one I can think of actually is The Link to the Past. A Link to the Past. The Game Boy Advance remake. Probably everything else I played on Game Boy Advance I probably played on this. But the one thing I really remember well is one summer holiday playing Pokemon Leaf Green. It was Leaf Green, not Fire Red. I remember being at the airport. I think it was probably an Italy holiday. We went to Italy quite a bit when I was younger, and I remember, I caught a Pikachu in Viridian Forest, and I was using the Pikachu. I remember being just before Rock Tunnel. I remember a lot of like strange little things, but I remember playing it on this, and maybe that was pretty soon after I got this. Otherwise, I'm not sure why I remember that so well, kind of clearly. But yeah, now I think about it, I must have played pretty much everything on this. Although maybe Pokemon Ruby was on the original Game Boy Advance that I played that on. That would maybe explain where Pokemon Ruby went. I mean, a lot of my games went missing, and my GameCube went missing, and actually, that got replaced by the insurance company, and we claimed a Nintendo GameCube, which was stolen, but as I remember anyway. But what they gave us back was actually a Resident Evil 4 themed GameCube. So I had a Resident Evil 4 themed GameCube for a while, until getting rid of it like a few years ago actually. It's kind of cool. That was a surprise. I guess that was just, I have no idea how these things work. I guess that's just what they got. Maybe that was for some reason more easily available for them. We didn't choose it. Certainly not. Anyway. And it wouldn't have interested me at the time anyway. I mean, it was fun to be surprised by that. Anyway, last thing. is this link cable, which actually I've already talked about in a different thing, because I talked about this when I got the kind of Game Boy haul from my grandparents. And this is an original Game Boy link cable. So I probably had very little experience with this. I probably only used this kind of cable at my grandparents to play, two-player Tetris on those Game Boys. Very, very occasionally. I probably played it against my grandparents. My grandpa, like, a couple of times. He was better than me at the time. Probably still is. Who knows? But I do remember using the link cables a lot, the Game Boy Color ones. There was a lot of people that I would trade Pokemon with. I was playing Pokemon at the same time as other people, even though I came late to it. But it was kind of, the whole idea of trading Pokemon was never worked out the way that they kind of advertised it to be, promised it to be. It wasn't the case that you would train up a Pokemon of yours and you would cherish it, whatever, and then meet someone else, see their Pokemon, and think, oh, I really want that Pokemon, I want to use that Pokemon, I want to battle with that Pokemon, I want to have that Pokemon in my team. And they think the same, and you go, oh, let's trade, like, good business, shake hands, whatever. In my experience, it was always really kind of cynical Pokedex filling stuff. It was very simple, to the point of, I remember meeting up and like hanging out in my friend's garden. We each had a Game Boy and we each had a Pokemon Red or Blue. And one of us started a new game twice. The other person started a new game and traded all the starters over to the first person. And then we maybe did the same thing again, so that we each started the game with all 3 starters. It was that kind of thing. You're really cynical, like kind of gaming the system, or just trading and trading back to get Pokedex entries. So it was the kind of it's probably like this a lot actually with new connectivity developments where they promise this kind of social aspect that I think really rarely exists. Maybe online stuff has fulfilled those sorts of promises a little bit better than something like the link cable or the infrared cable ever could, because the kind of story they would tell would be like bumping into another young person in some random context and pretty much out of nowhere saying, let's trade Pokemon, and then, lifelong friendship or whatever. I don't know. These are not specific promises anyone made, but this was the impression that I think people had. And it was, or it's at least like the sort of, the idea I thought would be cool. I thought this was possible. I thought this was exciting, but that never happened, obviously. Anyway, that's my story. Cheers.